Okay, so I hear that you're here to do this food truck thing to get food to homeless people and to the poverty.
Uh-huh.
So, one question we have for you is, how do people get into poverty?
Well, I used to run a homeless shelter for 20 years. And so I discovered that by talking to the people who were experiencing homelessness, that a lot of times their families were poor. So they may have grown up in poverty, been born into poverty and grown up in poverty. And because they didn't have a stable place to live, it meant that they had to move frequently, staying on somebody's floor, and when that person said, oh, we can't stay here any longer, they'd move to somebody else's house. Well, it meant that the kids had to change schools a lot. And sometimes when they got to be about 16, they just said, forget it, I'm tired of this, and so they'd leave school. Well, people that have like a 10th grade education don't have a chance to get a living wage job. So, because the kids were usually about 16 when this was happening, and they thought, I'll get a job at McDonald's, I'll be rich. But the thing is that if they worked at McDonald's, it would take them, they would have to work, I think at that time, and this was 10 years ago, they would have had to have worked like 120 hours a week to afford a place to rent. And so you can't see working, and that's a week. So you can't work 120
like 24 hours
a day.
Yeah,
exactly.
you think that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then 120. I mean,
Exactly. So lack of education is a huge piece. I realized that when you're, talking to someone and you're asking them to fill out forms, you can't hand it to them and ask them to fill it out because they may not be able to read.
Yeah,
and that was a real, eye-opener for me, was that people couldn't read. So, and again, it's a lot of times because they've been moved around from place to place to place.
Like, okay, was that my teacher? Wait, was this homework for what?
Exactly. And when your home life is in turmoil, you don't know if you're going to have a place to sleep or if you're going to have to sleep in a car. If the car breaks down, then what do? Because even if somebody in the household had a job, if the car breaks down, then they can't get to work, then they don't have a job anymore. Or sometimes it's so it's a double whammy there. So they've got a big car bill, they can't get to work, so they can't earn money. And so everything just kind of collapses. Yeah, exactly. So another thing that happens sometimes are big medical bills. People who are not insured will get sick,
they get sick, and then a medical bill, they always throw it on you.
Well, and what happens?
Your arm, that was $2 million.
Well, what happens a lot of times is because they can't afford health insurance, and they're really poor to begin with, they wait to go to a doctor. And so, say they had a sore throat that just happened to be strep throat. Strep can be really serious if it's not treated. And so by the time they get so sick that they have to go to the hospital for treatment, then it's really late, and so they have to be in the hospital for, say, a couple of weeks. So it's easy to run up like a $70,000 hospital bill, and if you have no insurance, what are you going to do?
That's really big.
Yeah. So
like, okay, I only have $1 in my pocket.
Exactly. So that's a good portion of it. I think those are some of the main reasons, but lack of education is a huge one.
Well,